Hello guys. I wanted to speak to you to tell you about how to debug your code because I see many of you. I'm in two Python groups and in two PHP groups on Facebook for help between programmers, and I see many newbies have problems with debugging their code, and I have some ideas for you, and I wanted to share them. I have 15 years already, more than 15 years of professional experience as a software developer, and I see many people get stuck with simple problems. And I'm not trying here to be arrogant, and I'm not being arrogant because those problems are so simple that they could see that the problems are simple themselves. It's not only from my point of view. And when I see someone get stuck, I've been there many times, and I am there many times these days as a pro. But the difference is I get unstuck quite fast compared to a newbie. And I wanted to give you some tools on that. We will talk about some small piece of code like this one, actually this exact one, and another one that's pretty much the same. But I want to speak to you about this workbench and about carpentry because it has very much to do with programming. You would not expect, but it has much to do. And the similarity is that we're trying to build something. A carpenter is trying to build some piece of furniture and make it beautiful and make it, if it has moving parts, make it functional, and so the parts are moving properly and so on. But yeah, and we're trying to craft a piece of code and make it work beautifully for our boss or our clients or for ourselves maybe. And yes, uh, we want to build something, and it's not to say I want to say that programming is hard. It's not to say that carpentry is not hard, but they're also a little bit different, a little bit, or maybe more than a little bit. Anyway, because as a carpenter, you can take a piece of wood or a nail or whatever and see that actually you can see it, you can touch it in real life. And there is a problem with programming because it's all virtual. And even if you can see the code, it doesn't mean that you see what's happening. Because the computer has very specific rules about how it processes your code, about how the computer sees your code, and you cannot keep it all in your head. Even if you're a genius, I do not think you can keep it all in your head and write code without bugs. I think it's impossible, and I think that's pretty much okay, because as a carpenter, if you're doing your work on a piece of you're working on a piece of furniture, you can shape the piece of wood to your needs and then use it. And you do this by seeing and by touching and by measuring with a ruler or with other tools that you have. I don't know the names of them because I'm not a carpenter, but yeah. But in programming, mm, you have those tools, but for example, if you have a task, you you would try to program it, and you write 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 lines of code, and in the end it doesn't work. It does not produce the result that you want. And what do you do then? You can trash the code and try to write it again and trash it and try to write it again until you finally, because of some miracle, write it the right way. But I don't think I don't think that's feasible. I don't think that works in the real world, because uh, when you write, let's say, 20 lines of code, it starts becoming harder and harder to rewrite them. And you need a way to fix your code, because trashing it every time does not work. And uh, some projects grow very big, like hundreds of thousands of lines of code, and even millions if you speak of something like Windows or Linux, an operating system. But yeah, projects grow very large and we need to debug them on place. We cannot take a part out and throw it out and trash it and write it again. And I wanted to show you how to see what the computer sees. And this would be very helpful, because as someone said, I don't remember who, but debugging is basically gathering more and more information until the problem becomes obvious. You gather information about what's happening in your program until the problem becomes obvious. And that's very true, because let's say this code bugs. I'll tell you about this code and I'll show you how I would go about debugging it. And this actually is the working example, and this is the not working example. So um, let's see the buggy example. So how I would go about this code. So first, my friend told me I have those two pieces of code, and this one works, but it doesn't work the way I want it. It does not have, it does not throw an exception. It does not break, but it does not print what I want it to print. So I wanted to take this string of numbers and then replace them or just print a string of words. So for example, 1, 2, 3 will be 1, 2, 3 in one string. And what he did here looks pretty similar to what he should have done. And if I run this code, we expect it to return 1, 2, 3, but it returns only 3. And this is the working example. If I run it, you will see it returns 1, 2, 3. So my friend could have gone two ways about it, and one way is asking someone, which is fine if you cannot figure it out on yourself. But as I said, there are ways to figure out things on your own, and do not wait for an answer, and basically become a better programmer by doing that. So what do you do? How do you debug this code? How do you tell why it produces only 3 here? So I look at the code, and what I see here is phone 1, 2, 3. Okay, this should be fine, but I can confirm that by printing. Okay, and maybe I'll try to print this to see what's going on. Okay, so I have said font 1 to 3, and it is 1 to 3, and this is 1 to 3. Okay, this looks fine. I can skip those parts. And here we have a loop, and so we are setting output to an empty string, and digit in phone, we rotate through each digit in the phone, and we're placing them in output. This would work, or we could just do digit, and it would work again as well. But let's leave it as it is. Doesn't really matter. So what happens here? The computer does something and we do not know what happens here. So I want to see what the computer does. About to start whooping. So I can here print, let's say, output is, I want to move it down here, print the value of output, and okay, so maybe at the end of each loop, at each going through this code in the loop, so because this is for newbies, I'll explain what is happening, but basically this code will run through here, and then it will return up here and take, first it will take 1 and put it in digit because it is in phone, and then take 2, put it in digit, get 3, put it in digit, and so on, and it will rotate to this code. And here what I expect to happen is see 3 times output is, and then print loop ended. So let's see what happens here. So here we have about to start looping, so we're here, and then output is 1, so we have output and is 1, as I showed you. It got 1, put it in digit, and here we did some getting from the dictionary and so on, and here we printed. But we see that output is 1, and then it is 2, and then it is 3. And this is problematic because we want it to add up. We want to become 1, 2, 3. We do not want the output to be 1 and then only 2 and then only 3. And we can do very much the same thing in the other example. I'll just copy the print statements to save some time typing them out. And we can run it. And we can see that at the first loop, output is 1, then it is 1, 2, and then it's 1, 2, 3. And when the loop ends, output is still 1, 2, 3. So our friend here could observe this and actually think and maybe even get this code, because I did some changes, but it was like this. It was like this when he gave it to me. So he could observe the output by those two examples and see that the problem is here in the loop, and the problem is actually this plus equals sign, and what it exactly does. It exactly adds up here, but here it overrides the value of let me run it again. It overrides the value each time of output. It's like defining output sorry, my English is not very helpful here, but yeah, it's overriding the value of output all over again. That's what I wanted to say. Yes. So I want to return to this workbench and tell you that you would be much better off if you use more print statements, because then you can basically ask the computer about what's going on, what the computer sees. And when you see that what the computer sees, you can reason about it. But if you cannot see what the computer sees, then you can reason only about what's in your head. And even if you have a lot in your head, it's very often it's not very helpful because the computer sees something differently or sees something more than you see. And in this regard, maybe I should have shown you also a picture of Sherlock Holmes or some other detective, because debugging is also very much like detective work, and you should not be hasty about it. You should not try to rush it, uh, because you need to gather information, and you need for that information um, to have time to put roots in your head, basically. To you need, because seeing is maybe you see something but you don't understand what it means, and you need time to extract the meaning from what you see. So rushing with programming almost almost never helps, and rushing with debugging, and as a subset of programming problems, it also doesn't rushing doesn't help. So give yourself time to write print statements, to log information. If you're more advanced, if you're using, for example, a framework, doesn't matter what kind of framework, they all have some way of logging. Even if your project is at a remote server somewhere on the cloud or in the internet, you can use the logging, and you can log the output to a file and read what happened to your program in the file. So help the computer help you. That's what I wanted to tell you, and use those print statements. Do not feel stupid, because you are not. If you understand even basic programming, I'm sure you can learn more and understand more advanced concepts. So yes, that's what I wanted to tell you about how to debug better and easier and faster. And I hope you have a lot of success with this approach, and you learn many new things from using it. Bye bye, and have a nice I don't know. New Year is coming, so I wish you a successful New Year. Bye bye.